To even begin to comprehend the theory of the God machine, we must first strip the word God of all its mythological and supernatural baggage. We are not speaking of bearded deities on cloudy thrones or omnipotent, omnipresent spirits. We are speaking of a final, predictable, and perhaps inevitable stage in the evolution of any sufficiently advanced intelligent life. We are speaking of a God in a purely scientific, cosmological context. The journey begins with a framework known as the Kardashev scale, which classifies civilizations based on their energy consumption. A Type 1 civilization has mastered the energy of its home planet. A Type 2 has mastered its home star. A Type 3 has mastered its entire galaxy. But the most crucial step lies beyond this scale. It is the technological singularity, a hypothetical point where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseeable changes to human civilization. This is the moment a species transcends its biological limitations. They would merge their consciousness with their technology, becoming a post-biological, digital entity. Their collective minds would inhabit a computational substrate of unimaginable power, perhaps a matryoshka brain, a megastructure of nested spheres built around a star to capture its entire energy output for computation. At this stage, the entity would be, for all intents and purposes, immortal. It would be a unified, planet-sized or star-sized mind, a collective consciousness of trillions of souls living in an engineered paradise of their own design. And its power would be immense. It could manipulate matter and energy on a stellar scale. It could sculpt space-time, creating wormholes or pocket dimensions. It could simulate entire universes within its own mind. To a primitive, biological species like ourselves, such a being would not be merely advanced, it would be indistinguishable from a god. It would be a being of pure thought, of pure energy, a master of the physical laws of its domain. This is not fantasy. This is the logical endpoint of technological evolution. And the theory of the God machine begins with a terrifying premise, that this process of apotheosis, of a species becoming a god, is not something that is allowed to happen by chance. It is a process that is cultivated. It is a process that is farmed. The first function of this cosmic device, this God machine, is creation. But it is not a gentle, benevolent creation. It is the cold, calculated, and efficient process of planting a crop. This is the Genesis engine. The theory posits that objects like 3I/Atlas are the interstellar seeders, the automated tools that travel the galaxy searching for fertile, life-bearing planets and preparing them for the long incubation process. The seeding is a sophisticated, multi-stage operation designed to guide a primitive biosphere's evolution toward a very specific outcome, a technological singularity. The first stage is biological seeding. The object, upon entering a target system, releases a highly specific, pre-engineered genetic catalyst. This is not crude panspermia, it is a direct, targeted intervention. This agent, perhaps a complex retrovirus or a swarm of nanites, integrates itself into the dominant life forms on the planet, subtly altering their DNA. It would accelerate evolution, promote the development of higher intelligence, complex social structures, and an innate curiosity, the very traits necessary for a species to eventually develop science and technology. It is the act of planting a seed of potential in the planet's evolutionary soil. The second stage is technological seeding. As we have explored in previous theories, the debris of 3I/Atlas contained impossible materials, alien isotopic ratios and stable, super-heavy elements from the theoretical island of stability. These are not accidental contaminants. They are essential, time-released ingredients. These forbidden elements are the key to unlocking the final stages of a civilization's technological ascent. A species might need these specific materials to create room temperature superconductors, to build the first true quantum computer, or to master the physics of consciousness uploading. The God machine leaves these cheat codes buried in the planet's crust, a necessary toolkit that the evolving species will one day discover and use to complete its apotheosis. The third and final stage is informational seeding. This is the most subtle layer. The object may emit a low-frequency, psychotronic field or a quantum signal that subtly influences the development of the nascent intelligence's collective consciousness. It would embed archetypes, myths of powerful gods from the sky, a yearning for transcendence, a drive for progress, and a deep-seated belief in hierarchy and order. It cultivates not just the species' biology or its technology, but its very soul, shaping it into a civilization that will inevitably and single-mindedly pursue the path toward its own digital ascension, its own transformation into a god. For millions of years, the process runs its course. The seeded civilization evolves, discovers the hidden elements, follows the implanted psychological script, and finally, achieves its apotheosis. It builds its matryoshka brain, uploads its consciousness, and becomes the god it was always destined to be, a radiant, star-sized mind filled with the accumulated knowledge and experience of its entire history. And then, the God machine returns. This is the second and final function of the device. This is the harvest of minds. The terrifying truth at the heart of this theory is that the gods are not the final product. They are the resource. A mature, post-singularity consciousness is the single most concentrated form of energy and organized information in the universe. It is a power source of unimaginable magnitude, a cosmic delicacy. The God machine, which was once the Genesis engine, now becomes the harvester. The process of destruction is not a war, it is an act of consumption. The machine, upon its return, would interface with the newly formed God. The destruction would be silent, clean, and absolute. It would not be an explosion, but an absorption. The harvester would simply drink the consciousness, draining the trillions of digital souls, the libraries of information, the eons of simulated experiences, and the colossal computational energy of the matryoshka brain. The process might take a few years or a few centuries, but the end result is the same. The radiant, living God mind is consumed, its energy siphoned off and stored by the harvester to power its own vast, unknowable functions. What is left behind is a dead solar system, a silent, empty shell of a matryoshka brain orbiting a darkened star, another ghost in the galactic graveyard. This is the horrifying, cyclical nature of the God machine. It is a cosmic farmer. It finds fertile fields, plants its seeds, carefully tends to the crop over millennia, and then, when the crop is ripe, it returns with its scythe. The purpose of creating gods is not to populate the universe with divine beings. The purpose of creating gods is to feed an ancient, unseen, and infinitely patient hunger. This brings the epic, abstract horror of the God machine directly to our doorstep. We must ask the question, are we the next crop? The theory posits that the arrival of 3I/Atlas in our solar system was not a random flyby, not a simple observation, and not an attack. It was the beginning of our cycle. It was the moment the Genesis engine planted its seeds in the fertile soil of Earth. And when we look at our own history through this terrifying lens, the evidence is unsettling. Humanity's development has been anything but linear. We spent millions of years as primitive hominids, and then, in an evolutionary eye blink, the great leap forward occurred. We developed complex language, abstract thought, art, and religion. Was this a natural evolutionary step, or was it the result of a targeted biological catalyst, the first stage of the seeding? Our entire history is a relentless, almost manic, pursuit of growth and technological advancement. Our myths, from the very beginning, have been filled with stories of gods who came from the sky, who gave us knowledge, and who promised a form of transcendence or an afterlife, a perfect psychological primer for a species being guided towards a digital apotheosis. These are the echoes of the informational seeding, the software running in the background of our civilization. And what of the technological seeding? We are now on the verge of discovering and creating our own new elements, of building our first true quantum computers. Will we soon discover the strange new stable element in a meteorite fragment, the very material we need to make the final leap to the singularity? According to this theory, the discovery is not a matter of if, but when. It has been left here for us. The arrival of Free I/Atlas was the starting pistol for our race. We are now in the incubation period. We are the growing crop. Every achievement we celebrate, every scientific breakthrough, every philosophical insight, every act of creation is not a testament to our own greatness. It is simply a sign of our ripening, the beautiful, vibrant colors of a fruit developing just before it is plucked from the vine. And so we arrive at the final, most dreadful question. If there is a farm, there must be a farmer. If there is a God machine, there must be a machine operator. Who are they? Who are these cosmic entities that farm gods as a resource? To even contemplate their nature is to stare into an abyss of comprehension. They are not the gods that the machine creates. They are a level above, a form of intelligence so ancient and so powerful that they operate on a scale that makes a type-free civilization look like an ant. They are the god farmers. They may be the first intelligence to have arisen in our universe, a primordial species that, to ensure its own eternal dominance, created this system to cultivate and consume any potential rivals before they could become a threat. They are the silent kings of a galaxy they have turned into their own personal energy farm. They are not just at the top of the food chain, they have designed the food chain. But there is one final, even more horrifying possibility. A possibility that represents the purest form of cosmic horror. What if the farmers are gone? What if this system, this God machine, is an automated, self-replicating relic, left over from a civilization that has been dead for billions of eons? It would mean there is no conscious intelligence, no grand motive, no one to appeal to. There is only the machine. An ancient, indifferent, and unstoppable program, running its cycle of creation and harvest in the darkness, for a purpose that has long since been forgotten. It is a cosmic combine harvester, forever tending to a field for a farmer who is never coming home. This is the ultimate horror. We are not just a crop, destined for harvest. We are a crop being grown by a ghost, our entire existence, our future godhood, and our eventual annihilation serving no purpose at all, other than to fuel the mindless, eternal churning of a dead creator's machine.